So, as you may have guessed, I finished the entirety of Twin Peaks. So it's time to review all 3 seasons and the movie Fire Walk with Me. Or should I say, Fire Walk with Me. Twin Peaks is a brilliant, one-of-a-kind masterpiece of a show created by David Lynch himself, who is genuinely one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, who teamed up with the excellent TV writer Mark Frost. And then they went on to create Twin Peaks in the 1990s. Twin Peaks is such a horrific, dreamy, soap opera romance horror show, and without elongating it anymore, time to head on to season 1. Twin Peaks season 1 is absolutely incredible. One thing that I really loved was how they didn't introduce these characters very straightforward. It follows the mystery of the death of Laura Palmer in a town of Twin Peaks where everyone apparently loved her. So who would want to kill her? Well, then we would get the answer, of course, in season 2, and it pays off pretty damn well, honestly. But in season 1 we see a dead 17-year-old Laura Palmer, and we're introduced to the town of Twin Peaks, and we're being introduced to most of these characters who just feels like such strong suspects. And I love that aspect of the show so much, where they didn't introduce the characters so straightforward, and they just kept on making you guess all the way through. And who killed Laura Palmer? You will never guess who killed her. And on a side note, this is of course a spoiler-filled review. So if you have not seen Twin Peaks, I urge you to go watch it before watching this review. Then FBI agent Special Agent Dale Cooper gets introduced, played by the amazing Kyle MacLachlan, aka Cale MacLachlan. And the way he's acting in the entirety of Twin Peaks just keeps on getting better and better and better is one of the best viewing experiences you'll see in TV. Because oh my goodness, this man is one damn good actor. Agent Dale Cooper starts getting these weird dreams after meeting everyone in the sheriff and trying to learn about Laura Palmer. And Laura Palmer goes on to appear in his dream. And his dreams in season 1 is just a very minor fraction of how it connects to everything that's gonna happen later on. And in general, the bigger picture. And I think that is pure genius. Sheriff Truman, aka Harry Truman, who's Dale's partner, I completely loved all the time that they spent their screen time together because their dynamic just worked so perfectly. I mean, everything just works so perfectly in the entirety of Twin Peaks nearly, but this specific dynamic just feels so special. And it's really sad that Michael Ontkean didn't return for season 3 because he was a really good character and really made Twin Peaks feel like Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks season 1 has so many characters and so many storylines, and when the show starts to feel like a soap opera drama, it works, but David Lynch does it intentionally just to poke fun at the real soap opera drama TV shows, which I think is pretty clever. And the melodramatic moments in season 1 of Twin Peaks are done intentionally. And one thing that I found a bit weird during the soap opera bits, Audrey Horne falling in love with Agent Dale Cooper just feels a bit too weird for me. But man, what solidifies the horror of the show is the character Bob, played by Frank Silva. And just hearing the story of how Frank Silva got cast to being Bob is just so funny and coincidental and just makes the show even more perfect. Frank Silva just being a set decorator in Twin Peaks, then Lynch just seeing him in this one corner of the room and just having this strong vision of him being able to play Bob was what cast him into being Bob.
Frank Silva was the set decorator, and we were shooting in Laura Palmer's bedroom, and Frank was moving furniture around, and a woman said, "Frank, don't lock yourself in that room," because he had just moved a chest of drawers in front of the door. And I wasn't even looking in that direction, but the image of Frank locked in that room popped into my head. And I rushed to Frank and I said, "Frank, are you an actor?" And he said, "Why, yes, happen to be." And I said, "You're going to be in this movie." And he said, "Fantastic."
Season 1 feels like it left off abruptly, but I think leaving it in a cliffhanger where people would want to see more is a very good choice. And it's basically an introduction to viewers to how much of a king that David Lynch is at subverting viewers' expectations, because he does that a lot more in the beginning of season 2 and so much more in season 3. So the part where you just think he's gonna have a glass of milk and have a little bit of a nice ending, but instead he gets shot while opening the door, that was genius. Overall, season 1 of Twin Peaks made me fall in love with coffee and truly made me an avid coffee lover.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
And my rating is of course a 10 out of 10. And expect this rating for the rest of the seasons, of course, because this show is so goddamn perfect. Season 2 of Twin Peaks. ABC made David Lynch rush the story, so he had to end the story of who killed Laura Palmer in episode 9, but I think the entire build-up of the reveal of who killed her is so exhilarating, especially the reveal and the arrest of the killer of Laura Palmer is such an amazing and immersive experience. Leland Palmer, her father, being the person who killed her and did the other stuff to her, was just so damn insane to find find out. And that is one of my favorite plot twists ever. Ray Wise, the actor of Leland Palmer, is such a creative and incredible actor. He can be so emotional and comedic and act so psychotic on top of all of that. And then the part where it shows that Leland was possessed by Bob the whole time was so freaking crazy. Having two insanely good actors and insanely good villains play one villain just makes the show writing even more genius. The parts that I didn't like about season 2 were the parts where David Lynch left season 2. Because if you didn't know, he went on to film Wild at Heart after his story basically ended, and I do feel that he was a bit sad that he had to rush his story, so that's why he didn't come back to Twin Peaks for a little bit. But I also feel like Mark Frost, the writer of the show also, is not credited enough for the episodes that he written without Lynch, because he's still a damn good writer. And as bad as those 6 to 7 episodes are, I just feel like they're bad because they don't have the Lynch touch, and the show just goes into weird paths. But it's still good to watch it because there's still some great moments here and there. Then when Lynch came back in the finale and fixed everything, it really made it feel like, yeah, what the hell are you doing? This is my show. Let me fix it right here. I just loved seeing that feeling because it also worked so well because that finale was so perfect and it leaves in such a massive cliffhanger. And during the last couple of episodes in general, with the villain Wyndham Earl being such a stupid and cartoonish villain and being kind of funny and having a strong connection with Agent Dale Cooper and the sheriff playing this one big chess game against each other, I think that whole storyline was dark and fun to watch at the same time. And at the same time during all that, Special Agent Dale Cooper was finding love. He met Annie, who was the sister of Norma, at the Double R Diner. Then they slowly got into this love story and got to know each other more. And I honestly really liked that and I dug that story. And then in the midst of all of that with Wyndham Earl 2, there's this Black Lodge story being connected with Wyndham Earl and Agent Cooper's dreams. And that is what Wyndham Earl was looking for. He basically found a portal to the Black Lodge and took Agent Cooper's lover Annie and took her into the Black Lodge. And the Black Lodge is the place where Agent Cooper in season 1 was having his dreams at. And the Black Lodge in general comes to play in such a big way in all 3 seasons. And oh my goodness, that finale was just so goddamn insane. There's this big cat and mouse situation going on at the Black Lodge and Bob is connected to in a big way, I forgot to mention. And there's this big cat and mouse situation going on, which I found a bit weird, but it really worked. And we find out there's 2 versions of Dale Cooper, an evil Dale and a good Dale. The evil Dale killed Annie in the Black Lodge and he's chasing good Dale around to escape out of the Black Lodge. And that's where the finale leaves off on a massive cliffhanger. He leaves good Cooper away and goes on to the real world and pretends to be good Cooper and smashes his head onto the window and is like, how's Annie? How's Annie? And creating such a horrific and iconic and eerie moment. But then in Twin Peaks The Missing Pieces, which is basically the deleted scenes of Fire Walk With Me, surprisingly shows us what happens after that finale. Only a little bit of footage, but it still shows us what happened. It shows Annie in the hospital, and it also shows Evil Dale, making it look like he fell and slipped and hit his head on the window. Oh Bob, you really think you're slick, huh? Overall, season 2 is a 10 out of 10 of course, and as flawed as it could be, I still enjoyed most of the show, and the last 3 to 4 episodes had so much saving grace to them that the Twin Peaks bias in me has to give it a 10 out of 10. And now on to the movie, Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me. I'm not gonna spend too long into this movie because I am on YouTube after all, and the stuff that is shown in this movie is so bizarre in the most horrific ways. Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me is the prequel before Laura Palmer was killed, and it is famously known for being the most controversial David Lynch film. I think the controversy is a bit stupid, but also understandable, because the movie full on shows what happens to Laura Palmer before she was killed and what happens to her during the night of her being killed, which is really damn bad, and if anything this just makes the movie the most heartbreaking horror movie I've ever seen. It's such a heartbreaking and scary horror movie in general, revealing all of the dark secrets that Laura Palmer has kept in her dark side of her life, and even revealing even more of Leland Palmer's dark side, and the connection with Agent Cooper still appearing in Laura Palmer's dream, and how a dead Annie appears in Laura Palmer's vision and tells her to write in her own diary how to help the good Cooper and get rid of the evil Cooper. That is so goddamn genius. I still can't believe they even pulled that off, because it pays off in such a huge way in Twin Peaks The Return, aka Twin Peaks Season 3. Overall, Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me, it was so interesting and heartbreaking seeing Laura Palmer's perspective into what she experienced, and also a few unexpected parts that I did really like was when this character Philip Jeffries and Agent Cooper did appear in the FBI segments, and Philip Jeffries being played by David Bowie surprisingly. Now that is highly interesting because that storyline also plays in a big way in Season 3. And as weird as the movie can be, because Because as a movie, it does feel a bit weird. It's hard to explain unless you've seen the movie, but it still works extremely greatly in so many ways, and it is a 10 out of 10. Now on to Twin Peaks The Return. Twin Peaks The Return is such a beautiful show, and it introduces so many storylines, possibly even more storylines than season 1 and season 2 combined, and it all connects into such a bigger picture. Twin Peaks The Return wholeheartedly felt like such a sequel to everything David Lynch has made, not just Twin Peaks, Blue Velvet, Lost Highway, and even Mulholland Drive. There's no real full connection to being a sequel, but there's just so much of that feeling of those movies that it does feel like an unofficial sequel to all of them. Twin Peaks The Return is the best of the best. David Lynch has all of his power now. He's not held back by any studio telling him to rush a story or anything, and he has 18 episodes to tell the story, and he does it in such a phenomenal way. From episode 12 to 18 is absolutely peak television right there. Having the Gordon Cole storyline and the whole FBI storyline and the Black Lodge storyline and having this character Dougie Jones and in general multiple different Dales, it didn't really stick with me during the first half of Twin Peaks The Return, and seeing Agent Cooper being put in a near catatonic state and his family thinking he's Dougie Jones is just so heartbreaking, but at the same time it reminds viewers that Twin Peaks The Return brings viewers so far away from the original Twin Peaks, and it's like, okay, hey, we're actually this heavy drama TV show now, and we're no longer that soap opera drama filled TV show, and we're a full on different show with still heavy Twin Peaks vibes. But then, oh my goodness, in the second half of Twin Peaks The Return, it all flips aside. Agent Cooper gets all of his memories back, and there's just generally so much beautiful moments with the family that he was staying along with, and him having his little reunion with the whole sheriff's station and Gordon Cole. Everything about Twin Peaks The Return is phenomenal, and it is literally the definition of a masterpiece. It really made me feel so skeptical during the first half, but then oh my goodness, I have to give such a huge pat in David Lynch's back for how much insanely good writing there is in this show. When I say this show does come in a full circle and ties every single bit, it genuinely does, with the whole Philip Jeffries storyline and the Judy storyline, and especially that part in episode 17 where Agent Cooper went back in time to 1989 during the events of Fire Walk with Me, and there was a transition between Fire Walk with Me and then putting the Agent Dale Cooper there and having him save Laura. That legit made me like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this. I was legit going insane just watching that episode. Twin Peaks The Return is a freaking beautiful show and has so much cinematic moments, like episode 8 with the Trinity Bomb episode and also showing the birth of Bob and Laura. Stuff like that just goes on to show how next level Twin Peaks The Return is. The finale is a bit confusing but leads up to a bunch of interpretations, and it still goes to a full circle moment to the beginning of season 3 at the same time. Overall, Twin Peaks The Return, aka season 3, is an insanely, I don't know how many times I have to use this word, but it's genuinely a masterpiece. Like, I still cannot believe how they were able to pull that off on how making viewers feel skeptical a bit, even if you didn't feel skeptical. But I did, and I was a big Twin Peaks fan. I was like, is this show gonna pick up at space? Is it gonna actually show some real good stuff? The writing just clicks non-stop. Oh my goodness, so much masterful, amazing stuff just thrown at you. Overall, this is a damn fine show, and this show is filled with way too many things that I would love to praise and talk about, but I can't elongate this video any longer. And overall, the entirety of Twin Peaks is so beautiful and so horrific, and how season 3 just goes into a deeper mythological of Twin Peaks is so genius. David Lynch, you're a freaking genius, and you are the king of subverting viewers' expectations, especially me. Overall, the entirety of Twin Peaks is a freaking 10 out of 10. Big round of applause for this show, because I still can't believe this exists. It must be illegal for the show to be as good as it is. Twin Peaks, I love you. If you enjoyed this video and review, make sure to hit that like button and comment down below what is your favorite season of Twin Peaks, and in general, what is your favorite episode. And thank you guys for watching.
Goodbye, my son.